welcome everybody to a new version or a new release of Life West Leadership Line. I'm glad that you can join us. Today I've got just a good buddy of mine, Brad Glowaki. Brad, good to see you.
You too, Ron. Thanks for having me.
At least virtually. We're social distancing, aren't we?
That's right.
How many miles away are we?
Yeah, too many, man. I prefer the hug.
I know. Wait, listen, the minute I see you, I'm totally, I'm doing hugs like this.
Right.
You know, we don't have to touch, but we can hug like we can touch, but you know how it is. Anyways, Brad, listen, I got you on the show because I'm a leadership line. You know, we've been friends for a long time. I remember you used to come to my office and listen to philosophy and do stuff like that when you were a student. But, you know, I just feel you're one of the masters right now in communication, right? Communicating chiropractic, just in communication in general, right? And for our viewers that might not know this, Life West has now brought Brad up to the college, and we're starting some major duty Facebook advertising for our clinic, and he's driving in our whole community into our clinic. And Brad came up and he did every intern, or at least all the interns that wanted to have patients, he taught them all about how to communicate, how to turn a Facebook ad, so to speak, into a patient if they choose to do that, you know, whatever way they want to move with it. But he just did a masterful job, and he'll be doing this every quarter now for our students moving into the clinic, into the outpatient clinic. And Brad, I thank you for that, because I have nothing but raves about it. I know you know that. It was just absolutely incredible. But let's talk. Let's jump into it. You know, and by the way, you have a level up mentoring. You have all different things that you're doing. You're all over the world. I think at one point you told me you're on 3 different continents in what?
In like 3 weeks' time. Yeah, crazy stuff like that. Yeah, gonna have to blame my travel agent. That'd be me.
Aren't we nuts? You know.
That's right. Absolutely.
There you go. But let's talk about communication. You know, like just. I know there's a culture around that, but just share us like what you're doing in your office and just, you know, what's been going on for you right now in this COVID era.
Yeah, look, I think, you know, honesty, when this thing first hit, like every practice, I'm still in practice and still seeing patients, and we do a high volume, but we took a hit and our volume dipped and our numbers dropped. And at first I just thought it was the media and it was the hype. And I watch enough news to know what's going on. So I want to know what my patients are thinking or being told. Not that I'm into the news, but I think it's important to know what they're hearing. And to the degree that it's what we call the cultural conversation, right? So I think every great leader in the community as a chiropractor needs to know what's out there, what your patients' fears are, their pressure points, their aspirations, what inspires them. And so you kind of have to dive into that dialogue. And again, it's what we call the cultural conversation. And years ago, you know, we were kind of ahead of the curve, and I knew that concussion was a topic that was really red hot and it was big in sports. And then sure enough, they came out with a movie, but we had positioned our office as experts on that topic because it was the cultural conversation. The movie came out, the studies with the NFL exploded. And what we had done was we positioned our office as the cultural authority on that particular topic. Well, here we are a few years later, and it's not too different. And this is why I think maybe some of what we teach communication-wise is good on every continent, is there's some universal principles. And what is the conversation that's happening at the dinner table, in the car rides with families? If that in any way, shape, or form can be a chiropractic conversation, one, the doctor's listening, can, you know, speak with authority and be authentic about it, then you should have a place at the table. You should be able to describe what your practice offers to help those people out. And again, if you don't know anything about the topic, don't pretend. But a lot of times we look at this topic, even like, you know, what's going on with COVID right now, COVID-19, it's a germ topic, right? But if you really peel back the layers, it's a health topic. You know, there's people that are worried and now talking about their health. There's this at-risk population that all of a sudden everybody knows what the lingo is, and these are immune compromised. And so I go, oh, so if there's an immune compromise, could there be an immune sufficient, or could there be people that are immune superior? And so all of a sudden, if there's a deficient group, maybe there's a super group, and where are you? And all of a sudden I've got a continuum to speak to my patients on. And it's in the media.
To take them on, right? You know,
that's right.
Take them up the ladder. Talk to me about this. So you mentioned a few things. You mentioned about fear, right? You mentioned about, so share with us that first step, you know, like what the fears are, what fears are you seeing?
Yeah, it's pretty obvious stuff. Some people go, oh, it's the germs, or I don't really know what to think, or it's hard to know what to believe. And then I'll just spin it and I just do it Socratic. I go, okay, well, what are you thinking? What's in your heart? What do you feel about this? Well, I think the media hypes a lot of stuff up. Good, me too. But I think there is some truth. I'm sure there is. So where are you on this continuum? And a lot of times people want to believe that their body is intelligent. They want to believe that their body is clever. In other words, that they have an innate intelligence. But at the same time, they're being told by outside sources the body's not smart. The body's not able to handle this. So look, that is the cultural conversation. And I don't want to speak to the meds or the vaccines straight on. I just want to speak to, here's what you can do chiropractically. And really, I guess to kind of give you this in a nutshell, and what I think would help the viewers with your table talk is what we do is we inhibit the inhibitors. So stress is an immune inhibitor. Loss of sleep inhibits the immune system. So what we've talked about that you can do publicly, you can do on social media, you're not going to get yourself in trouble with your state boards, is we eliminate the inhibitors. We decrease the risk factors. And everybody can agree to that. And those are the kind of conversations we're doing with our table talk. Those are the kinds of things that we're doing, on daily visits with patients. Although I wish a lot of my patients were better educated, this is a good litmus test. And I'll go back to the question, what's a subluxation? What's really cool is in our practice, they know what that is and how it works within their nervous system.
Right, right. And when you talk about the fears, and you talk about the programming, absolutely, of what they're having. I know that a large faction of this has been a recurrent conversation that I've had with guests on our show, is that it's not so much the patients sometimes. The patients, they trust you and they want to come in. They know you're going to be sanitized. They know everything's going to be good. It's their family members. Right. It's their cluster of people that are locked in their house with them. They're saying, why are you going out? Or why are you doing that? Or, you could come back and you can infect us, or, that kind of stuff. And that's really what they're getting. That's where a lot of it's coming from. And being able to handle that stuff, because I think that's one of the things. You and I talked a second ago about, before we got on, just about, that you're calling your patients.
Yeah. Right? So I've been challenging docs to call 20 patients a day. And when I have some doctors that go, wow, it was good, I called 17, not 20, call 20, call them and they go, what do I say? Just say, I'm checking on you. Hey, I just want to see how you're doing. What's been going on? How you holding up in all this? We haven't seen in the office. And it's not that, hey, where are you? You need to get in. It's just kind of, where are you in this scenario? What's going on? Gosh, doc, I've been thinking about you. I got a lot of, crazy stuff in the media, and I'm so glad you called, because this is what's going on. And we actually had a Life West alum do this recently, and he called the first 20 people, and he got 16 of his patients rescheduled the next day. Guy, Ron Benson's been in practice over 30 years. He had 16 people the next day say, I'll get back on the program. They just need to know you care, and sometimes that simple discipline of 20 people per day, just checking on you, just want to see what you're doing. And maybe they come in when this blows over, but they, more than they hear your voice, they feel your heart. And I think that's big.
And it's not calling them to say, come on in. It's calling them just to really just check in, right? Yeah. It's not like, hey, let them know. You can let them know, hey, and just so you know, I am here. If you need me, I am here. But you do what you need to do. But just checking in. I mean, what a great time! What a great silver lining. I mean, when's the last time we got to call people like that and really let them know? And as a chiropractor, we know that we see these patients more than they see other people in their life sometimes, right?
Yeah, and I'll add this on there, buddy. Is if they do pick up and they go, oh, geez, you're open. This is another way to build your cultural authority, because here in the only 2 states that I know of, and you can correct me if I'm wrong, but Colorado and Kentucky are chiropractors not allowed to practice. So the other 48 states, to my knowledge, you're able to practice. In my conversation, when they do pick up and go, oh, you're open, I'll say, yeah, Governor Gavin Newsom here in California, the governor said we're essential. Yeah. So we're frontline. We have to be open. Us, hospitals, medical doctors, we're kind of all in the same playing field. So I use it to elevate, maybe in the public's opinion. And the phrase we've been using is essential. Hey, I'm essential. But more importantly, I think when you make those 20 phone calls, it ties it back to they're essential. And the phone call isn't like, hey, cruise in, I got to pay my mortgage. Hey, I'm genuinely checking on you. I just want to see how you're doing through all this. And if they're surprised, for the people watching this, surprised you're open, yeah, well, thank goodness the governor determined we're in essential healthcare. We're frontline. Yeah, we're open. We're here, and we're one of the few businesses that are. That builds your cultural authority. If the governor says you're open, then what a great time to be a chiropractor, and what a blessing to be able to be open. Such a privilege.
Yeah. And then talk about aspirations. You mentioned at the beginning, to talk about their fears, their aspirations. Share with us about aspirations.
Yeah, so a lot of people, when you come in for your table talk, they're face down on the table and they're nervous and they're talking about the media. And I just think it's important to kind of shift that conversation. One of your good friends, and I'm a big fan, is Bruce Lipton. And just, you can't be in defense and growth physiology at the same time. So if they're talking about their fears and what the headlines are, what CNN said, and just so you know, what CNN stands for is constantly negative news. So if they're watching CNN, it's like all the negative stuff is being programmed. You have to switch that internal dialogue, and you've got to switch it to, no, actually, what's good? What are your aspirations? What are you hoping to do this weekend? What things are you excited to get back to? When this is over, what do you want to do? Get back in the beach. I can't wait to surf. And all of a sudden their physiology changes because you kind of put them in a different headspace. But that's important. And you and I have talked about this over lunch one day. I'll never forget this, is when people are face down on your table, innate intelligence is open. Right? And when they're face down, you get a chance to be that voice in their head, and it's got to be a positive voice. Don't indulge in the negative. Be a positive. Talk about aspirations. Future pace them on a positive experience they're about to have, and really change that physiology. And then you get started checking their spine. However you do that, whatever technique. But that's super important, I think, is when they're face down, innate is open. When they're face up, a lot of times their intelligent mind, the educated mind, is kind of in the way. They're self-conscious, they're looking around the room, whatever it is. But when they're face down, man, that is a sacred 30 seconds, 45 seconds. Speak positivity, future pace them physiologically into the positive. You'll feel their shoulders change, the tension relax. That's, I think, the spiz that our forefathers talked about.
That's right, that's right. And when they're face up or their eyes are open, they go into that automatic mode, how you doing? I'm doing great. And yet their car just got in an accident. Their cat ran away with their mouse, that kind of stuff, it's really what happens, right?
Yeah.
When they're face down, and you ever notice when they're face down and you say, hey, great to see you, because we never ask how you're doing, but hey, great to see you. Tell me something positive today. And the minute they go to lift their head up, you just take them and go back down, because they want to go into that mode, they want to just go into that mode because And then they'll just spew out whatever's programmed in there instead of just allowing them to really just sit with it and be there. I love it. Tell me about your team. What are you doing with your team? And obviously this is a really big time with our teams, right? Because
so here's the thing: is questions dictate focus, and what people focus on is their perception. We all know perception is reality. So the short loop on that is your questions dictate reality. And your team, every day I check with my team. How we doing, everybody? What's going on? Anybody got any questions on this COVID crisis? Anybody got things going on? What can we do? And I don't want to drive them into the negative with my questions, but I kind of want to debomb it. I want to make it safe first. And then kind of going through the hierarchy, what good things are going on today, what's happening. And then kind of one of the last questions I'll ask them is, tell me about a miracle patient. Tell me about a story in this practice. Tell me something good that happened last week, this week. What happened yesterday? Give me a story. And in each day I make them come back with a story. I don't care if you have to dig through old re-exams, read the walls. We have video testimonials. Go check out our own website. Be in touch with our message, not their message. Outside in. Let's be in touch with inside out. And I get my team's focus on the miracles. And they're not focused on the headlines. So let's focus on the miracles. What are we bringing to the table? What have we done? And it builds momentum going into the shift, and just really a big morale booster. But I make them share the story, and I'll ask a couple questions. We had Mary come in, and she was 30 years old, and this is what she did. Mary have any kids? Yeah, I think she has 2 children. Okay, how old are they? Oh, they're 10 and 12. And it kind of completes the whole story that it's like, hey, this is a person that's got to go do things, and we're a big part of her day, and she's off the inhaler or the meds or whatever the thing is that they feel is their miracle. We are a part of that. And I think what's really cool for docs to learn through this process, and maybe this share, is that when your CA shares that story, it becomes part of them. And your team member, your CAs, are really proud of that patient, and they almost take ownership of the stories, and they become owners in your practice, not renters. They have that ownership mentality, and all of a sudden they walk a little taller, they walk a little more proud, and I think that's huge.
Yeah, it's gigantic. It's gigantic. And you know, I think this whole COVID, you know, issue, I know that, you know, there's no wrongs in life, right? Things happen for a reason.
Mm-hmm.
We'll look back later and we'll see it. But I think that the beautiful thing is to see the silver linings that are taking place, right? If we can go through these kind of, you know, whatever crisis equals opportunity, right? If we can go through this and see silver linings that are there and actually work with those silver linings to be something different, there will be a new normal.
That's right.
There's going to be a new normal. Just like after 9/11, there was a new normal. Tell me what you're thinking of, you know, what's come up for you, you know, for your new normal, and what the silver linings look like, and what you want to start implementing.
So I'll give you a couple things here I think that are super key. And by the way, I could do this all day with you. So if you want to do this again, you know I'm in. I would say number one, and this is big, just a kind of a conduit to get really into this conversation, but also for your viewers to make this a reality. Like not sort of or kind of, but like friggin' really dive into this question that you just asked me. And this is what I've been teaching docs all over the world in the last couple of weeks is please pretend like you chose this scenario.
Yeah.
Pretend like we're in this by choice. It changes everything. And we can say, you know, the attitude of gratitude and I get it, but just pretend, fool yourself for a moment and say, I chose to do this. I chose to clear everything for 8 weeks, all the events, all the places I was going to go. I chose to cancel everything. And then all of a sudden it's like your own physiology just goes, ooh, I like it more, because that which you resist persists. So if I'm fighting it or I'm upset or God, I can't believe they extended another week, I'm just pretending like I chose to extend it for 2 weeks or whatever the deal is that I can't control. I just pretend like I chose it. And then I'm at peace with it a whole lot quicker. And then you can find that silver lining. And I think number one, from an economic model, chiropractors need to learn to really be able to absorb the hits. So you mentioned 9/11. I was in practice for a year and a half at that point in time, and I thought, oh my gosh, why now? I'm sure there's a lot of viewers feeling like, why now? This is horrible timing for me. That's a victim mentality, right? And there are no rich victims. So no matter who you are, this isn't a great time for this to go on. I've chiropractors calling me saying, I just opened, this is terrible. I have people in the middle of the sale, this is terrible. I want to move, this is terrible. We're trying to get pregnant. I get it, but pretend like you chose it, get into that mode, and then really economically start looking at, hey, there's going to be other things in the future. Start to build in some profitability in your models where you can absorb the hits. You can take this because there will be other things in the future. I think the new normal going forwards is there's going to be a lot of people out of work. It's a great time to upgrade your teams. It's a great time to add a key player you need. There's a lot of talent out there right now that people aren't working. Bring them on board. It's a great time to grow your team, to increase the talent. It's a great time, I think, also to be looking at what you can do differently in your messaging, like the cultural conversation. And one of the things I did is I interviewed a local medical doctor, and we put it on social media, and the town loves this guy. And what happens then is there's a little bit of what's known as transference. What they liked about him, it's reflected back on me. We actually had a big influx of new patients because they were his patients. And if he's saying good things about me, I must be a good guy. So we're actually using some of these things social media-wise to our advantage, which is you can really start to increase some of that transference, that trust. We mentioned the stuff of the governor. I think this is the new norm. People are going to be really hesitant coming out of this, real slow, and social influence is going to be a big thing to reaffirm their fears, kind of mitigate some of the risks that are out there. We did social media videos where I just had my cleaning crew behind me. I said, don't move off this table. And they're scrubbing the table and they're washing things down. And while I'm giving a health tip, people can see that we're sanitary and clean. And that imagery is huge. And if you look at this, like the governors in different states, if they were talking about safety concerns, The staging behind them were like masks and gloves, and we got a new shipment in. And so that's staged behind the governor. The other day, Texas said, we're going back to work early. So it's like forklifts and packages, and it's all the images of going back to work. I think chiropractors can take a lot away from that, and a communication, and I love communication, sometimes verbal, sometimes visual. The medical doctors in your community offer a little bit of what's known as a halo effect. So if you're good with them and you can speak your truth and they know what lane you're in, then you're good to go. And I think this is a really good time to get comfort in the community, be a cultural authority. And this is a health conversation. Chiropractors need to be in it. It's maybe not the best one, but it is a health conversation. It's about germs. And I think chiropractors should be a cultural authority on anything in health. This is your time to really get out there and let people know what we do.
Yeah, and I agree 100%. And you know, when you look at the world, when we look back, there's always reasons why. But you know, I mean, when I see the pollution that's being lifted, when you look at India right now and you're seeing the Himalayas for the first time, 100 miles away, whatever it is, you know, things that are happening right now, it's like a reset, right? And that's been my word lately, you know, just, you know, how do you reset? How do you reset your practice, right? Like you talked about, you just had some really great ideas and great tips for everybody. It's about just coming within yourself. And what I really loved today, Brad, was when you talked about, you know, see it as an opportunity, or that you caused this, right?
You chose it. Yeah, I chose this scenario.
To be a cause, not to be an effect of it, right? To be a cause. And it's just so beautiful. Brad, every time we speak, I know we can go on for hours, and every time we speak, there's always some more just things that come out that just kind of are ahas, you know, and I love those aha moments with you. And I really want to tell you that I'm so proud of not just what you're doing, but what you're adding to the profession. And I've been to your groups, and I've watched all three of my kids and their husbands went through your program, and you know, me being there talking to your docs and stuff like that. I just see the beauty and the wisdom that's there, but it's all about being themselves, right? And that's what I've always preached, right? Whatever you're going to do, just be who you are. Right. And here's some good tips to work with, but take it and make it yours. And I just want to thank you, because there's, you know, for what you do for the college, what you did for our students and our doctors up in the health center, you know, what you do for other doctors, you're just doing an amazing job. So
I appreciate it.
You look rested. I want to tell you that.
Yeah, buddy, it's amazing what 8 contiguous hours in a bed will do, man. Not like 4 sleeping in a plane sitting upright and 4 in an airport chair. You know, it's just like
I know.
What's cool and so refreshing too about, you know, just talking about coming on campus with Life West is the student docs that are there in the clinic have such respect and admiration for your clinic docs. So the docs that are directing them, and in a lot of schools, there's resentment, you know, between the clinic docs and the students, and we have to do this. There isn't that feel at Life West. You're really getting them ready for the real world in a vitalistic model, which is so refreshing. And yeah, anytime I can share my wisdom, I always tell people I've got a ton of wisdom. I don't want to brag, but you know, there's 2 parts to that equation. There's wise and there's dumb. And let me tell you, you know, wise and dumb make wisdom. That's how that word is created. And it can be heavy on the dumb, a little bit of the wise, but you put wise and dumb together.
It still works.
That's wisdom, baby. Yeah.
It still works. I love it. Well, Brad, thank you. Hey, listen, I know we talked earlier, and I asked you, you know, and the interview you did with the medical doctor.
Yeah.
Right. Is that available?
Yeah, so it'll be on our levelupmentoring.rocks website. So it's not a .com, it's a .rocks.
So my guys will put that there.
Yeah, cool. Put it in the text and go there. It's 20 minutes. He gives all the ins and outs of COVID. And I'll tell you what's really cool about it is he gives the medical approach for like 7 or 8 minutes. And then he reveals he just had it. And then he goes through what he did. And he said, look, high fevers are good. It's the body's, you know, innate way to burn things off. And I go, he just said innate, you know, to burn things off. The shivers are good. It's your body's way of cooking up core temperature. The chills is the brain fooling the body so it can elevate higher. You got to go with a plant-based diet if you're not feeling well, and you got to stay away from these foods. I mean, it got real organic. And then what we started doing is offering, you know, how we could help communities and companies. And just, it's a really cool interview. So we showed it to my team, and that was one of the things that got them kind of on board for the week. So yeah, check it out on the website.
So how do they get it? They go to levelupmentoring.com or .rocks.
.rocks, yeah.
And then what do they?
It's just going to be up there as a free video, and it's 20 minutes long, and just check it out. But it's a good, almost like a team training to get back into the why. And then he just kind of throws it to me and says, you guys do the wellness. You can teach people how to not get sick. but I deal with the infirmed. It's like, cool, he's in his lane, I'm in my lane, we're in the same town, we refer people back and forth, and this is what we're good at and this is what he's good at. It's a really cool way to understand what he would call co-management, that we have patients in common, and if we know what we're good at, everybody can do a great job with it.
Absolutely. Well, Brett, thank you, man. I love it. For our viewers, make sure you go to levelupmentoring.rocks and get the video, because I'm going to get it. So
cool.
And once again, our viewers, thank you for checking in. Brad, thank you for giving us your time today, for sharing your wisdom and the whiz and the dumb. Thank you for sharing that. And for all of our listeners and our viewers, we appreciate you. We love you. Make sure that you keep yourself safe. Live your life from above down, inside out. Remember that, what do you think about that you created this? What you can do with it, the silver linings. We'll have another issue coming up very soon of LifeWest Leadership Lines. We hope that you plug into that. Share this with other people. Make sure you get it out. And if you need anything at all, just feel free to call me. Okay? Thank you. We'll see you next time.